rewarding that click in the first 30 seconds is super important as well. They've looked at the thumbnail, they've clicked on it, and then if you don't deliver that really quickly, they're going to click away. You need to know exactly what the audience is already watching so that you can make something that you know serves them. There is no piece of content that everybody watches except maybe Mr. Beast. The vast majority of the show we've produced with a 3-person crew. I have actually recently undertaken a crash course in sound recording, and so now I do sound as well.
Welcome, Melanie Rowland. You are the co-founder of Lilydale Films and producer of the incredibly successful drama series Flunk. I'm so excited to talk to you. Since I first heard about what you guys were doing at Lilydale Films, it has blown my mind and I've just wanted everyone to know about it. I'm going to give the brief summary. You've produced 7 series, 6 feature films. You've got 4 more currently in post. You have a sustainable business model. You own your own IP. You've got over 200 million views all around the world. And you've done all of this without pitching to a broadcaster, without waiting for a green light. And you go directly to your audience. So impressive.
Thank you. It sounds like when you put it all together like that.
We're going to break down how you've done all that and how you've done it on a really minimal budget, which just absolutely blows my mind. But let's start at the beginning. Who are you and what do you do?
Lilydale Films we're an independent production company that specialises in producing and distributing queer coming-of-age stories. Flunk at this stage, it's kind of its whole own universe, really. When it first started, it was a teen drama series that we were producing and putting out online. After doing 2 seasons of the show, we started doing little spin-offs. We did a couple of feature films that were set in the same universe with the same characters. We did a spin-off season in New Zealand when we were stuck in lockdown here in Melbourne and we couldn't shoot. So we've got our characters in New Zealand that have also in later seasons come over and crossed over in the show here in Melbourne. And as we've continued to go, we have just built this universe out. So all of our stories and characters are interconnected. The show goes out online, short form, long form, goes on social media, it goes on streaming platforms. It's been broadcast in Europe and America.
It's one central universe that you've spun out into a whole lot of different ways. You play it on many platforms and you've taken that initial piece of IP and you've multiplied it.
Yeah, exactly. From the beginning, from the inception, it was very important to us to make a show that had a commercial aspect to it that could then be distributed, even if we were starting in a non-traditional way online, that it could go out in the way that films and TV shows have been done more traditionally. So from the outset, we made the show in a half-hour format and bundled it together in seasons. And we've always made projects in that way that it's a complete title that can then go off and be distributed rather than just like little episodes here and there.
I can't believe that everyone doesn't know about you. Let's go back to the beginning when you had this idea first. You and your partner were working at Neighbours and you decided you wanted to make your own series and take some creative control back. What happened next?
We'd been working together at Neighbours for a few years. He was running their digital department at the time, producing drama web series that sat in continuity with the show, but went online and was sort of aimed at bringing in new audiences for that show. The great thing about Neighbours is that you get exposed to every aspect of a TV production. And so you know exactly how everything works if you've been there for a little while. And we were able to take that knowledge. There was like a gap in the market. We wanted to go out and produce a show that would resonate with young Australians and hopefully, international audiences as well. The first season we did was 8 half-hour episodes, but we shot that in sort of smaller blocks. So it rolled out more slowly over a year. We had 45-minute episodes going out on YouTube. It started gaining some traction there. And from that point, we switched to shooting in bigger blocks, producing it seasons at a time, which would then allow us to distribute it in different ways. We were able to do like binge models, which we'd never done before.
So season 1 was 40 by 5 minutes. Did you ever pitch it to a traditional broadcast model, or did you know that you just wanted to get it made and greenlight yourself and go straight online?
Initially, we felt like we needed to prove that we could do it before we wanted to take it to any of the broadcasters. So it wasn't until maybe around season 2 or 3 that we started reaching out to different networks in Australia. And I must say, it's been a bit dismaying. Or we either didn't hear back from anybody, or if we did, we would hear that they weren't programming for that particular demographic. But then you see, like Degrassi being licensed by that platform. And so you're like, why are you buying teen drama from Canada and not supporting Australian? Especially since the show is being picked up by broadcasters in Europe and America.
So here you've got this multiple series show, over 200 million views globally, and you can't actually get interest from Australia.
Yeah. It's there's a famous South by Southwest speech from Mark Duplass who talks about the cavalry coming, and it's this idea that, if I do something, then someone else is going to come and take that hard work off me, and I'll be on easy street. But I think the more you do it, you realize that you can do it by yourself and you don't actually need someone to come over and give you the green light. I guess at some point we stopped trying to ask for help and we're just like, well, this is how we're doing it.
One of the things I think we're all going to have to get so much better at is listening to audience and getting feedback. And I think how you guys have done that is spectacular. Can you talk us through how you really listened to, engaged, and then pivoted the story according to what the audience were responding to?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big fan of the teen drama genre, and so is Rick, my co-producer, and we set out to make more of a traditional teen drama that had sort of 4 lead characters, and each episode would focus on a different character's story, and they would all intertwine. And as the series went, we would just keep checking in with different characters and progressing their stories. And what we found is we put out 2 episodes, and then on our 3rd episode focused on our lesbian character, and the attention that it got from the audience was just like nothing we had experienced before. We pivoted and we started pushing her more to the center of the show. As I said initially, in our first season, we were just shooting it kind of like block by block, episode by episode. So once Ingrid hit the screen, so to speak, we were able to sort of pivot and focus the show on her. And once we did that, it kept growing from there. And so what we saw and what we responded to was just the volume of views, of comments, just the engagement. I actually dug out the graph, because what's amazing about YouTube is just it gives you as much information, all the information. You can dig down into like the demographics, to so much stuff. It's hugely powerful tool for filmmakers.
This is amazing because, it's still a struggle for producers to get that back-end information from the bigger platforms. But when you're on YouTube, you get it all. So you really can see exactly what and when the audience are responding.
Yeah, absolutely. YouTube it's a great platform for producers. You can publish, like there's no gatekeeping. You get all the information. It's like it's live. You can see it like within half an hour, how your episode's doing. And then they pay regularly. Like that's another issue, I think, with indie producers and distributors, is just this like irregularity around reporting and paying any revenue. And YouTube does it monthly. They've just like worked it out. They know they have to do it, and they do.
As well as watching the back end, you were also getting a lot of comments that you were responding to in terms of what the audience liked and didn't like.
Yeah, absolutely. And we still get them to this day. It's like going back through all the old episodes, I think sometimes, especially in Australia, it's really easy to forget how marginalized and how challenging it can be being a young queer person outside of Australia. There are countries where it's not okay and they don't have it in their media. They don't have TV shows with queer characters. And so you literally get comments saying like, this show was life-changing. It changed my life. I've read one there was someone who it really helped them through a very dark period. And it's, it's just lovely to read those. It really makes you feel like, yes, we're doing something. We should continue doing this. It's lovely.
So you went straight to audience. You didn't wait for a gatekeeper. You found a niche. You listened to your audience. You fed back from that. Was that all on YouTube initially, or were you on other social platforms as well?
Initially, the show was Instagram first. So when we first put it out, we were putting out 1 minute a day on Instagram and then bundling 5 minutes and putting that out weekly on YouTube. And it didn't take off on Instagram, but we started seeing the growth and the views on YouTube. And so we pivoted and focused more on that. And it's interesting looking at it now because we're seeing the rise of these like TikTok kind of drama series. And it was a little bit ahead of its time in that sense. From there, we've pushed out to lots of other platforms and distribution pathways.
If people go to your website, they can literally see all the different platforms that you're on right now. Because you own entirely the rights, you just keep selling them in different ways. And even though YouTube has a global audience, when you've done broadcast deals, have you had to geo-block it, or have you just been able to work with having it on YouTube and having it on those broadcast platforms in specific countries?
We don't have the capability yet on YouTube. We don't have the ability to geo-block yet. So everything has just been non-exclusive deals.
And part of how you're making revenue is that you have your own pay-per-view platform. People can go directly to your platform and 100% of what people pay goes directly to you because you've got no investors.
It's Vimeo On Demand that we use as our pay-per-view. We looked around a lot to see what was the best platform that did direct-to-audience sales in terms of the split. Vimeo does a 90-10 split. So the filmmaker gets 90% of the revenue and they take 10%. That was the best platform that we could find. And it was interesting. We actually received messages from Vimeo recently and have been chatting to them, and we're one of their top sellers. As it turns out, they were doing some feedback. They're wanting to get feedback from who's selling on Vimeo, and yeah, they said that we were one of the top sellers in the top 100 they were speaking to. So that was kind of nice.
We'll obviously put the link in the show notes, but when you go to that page, you totally own that page. Vimeo is listed on each of the clips, but it looks like your own page.
It's great. It's fantastic for filmmakers. It's a great resource. You can retain all your rights. It's very easy to use. It's just like YouTube. You can build a seller page and list your titles and all the different, bonus videos and things that you might put out. There's some features that we had in mind that we would love for them to do. Things like bundling. It's like you'd love to be able to sell like multiple seasons in the one transaction. But as a resource for filmmakers, it's great.
Can you talk us through your finance model? You have had some funding from Screen Oz, but that's not a regular part of your finance plan. Like where are you getting money from and where are you making money?
Our productions are completely self-funded. We've never taken investment outside of when we've worked with Screen Australia, and also Vic Screen have been really big supporters of us. We also received some funding in the early days. Our second season was supported by the Community Broadcast Fund. So I am very grateful to those organisations who have helped us along the way. We've maybe received support for about half of the seasons that we've done, like half of the titles rather, and the rest have just been self-funded, which means that we're taking the revenue from previous seasons and features and putting it into the next round.
And now you're up and running, you've got an established brand. What do you do in terms of marketing when you launch a new series or when these new 4 feature films that you've got in post come out? What will be your strategy to find an audience for them?
The way that we have sort of developed our distribution is that what's so powerful about YouTube is that it's both a platform in and of itself, whereas you put the content up, it gets views and that gets ad revenue from those views, but it's also an incredible marketing arm. So what YouTube wants to do is it desperately wants to find people to watch its videos. And so it's looking at a particular audience, a particular viewer and saying, if you watch this video and this video, I'm going to serve you this one and see if you like it. So it's constantly trying to work out what its audience wants. So as long as you are producing content that there is an audience for, YouTube is pretty adept at finding it for you. And there are certainly things that you can do and things that we've learned along the way that help the algorithm in that quest.
Can you give us some examples of how you optimize for the algorithm?
The big things that you can do to optimize is obviously you've got your title and thumbnail, and that's really important because that gets the attention of the viewer. Rewarding that click in the first 30 seconds is super important as well. So they've read your title, they've looked at the thumbnail, they've clicked on it, and then if you don't deliver that really quickly, they're going to click away. They'll just keep scrolling. It was interesting for us coming from a TV background where the show is written around cliffhangers and you put your cliffhanger right at the end of your show because you want the audience to come back after the outbreak. But on YouTube, it's actually the opposite. You want to put your juiciest moment at the start and keep them there. And obviously you have to keep them there throughout the episode, but it's a different way that you're sort of writing and stacking your show so that you're getting that attention right up front and holding them.
You very much build your marketing into the shoot and make sure that you're really capturing the assets you need.
We've very quickly learned that when you are putting a show and your show lives online, that you need a lot of stills photography to support that. So we built into our production process, we've got a real little process that we do when we're shooting on set. So we've got our rehearsals and camera rehearsals, we film, and then at the end we come out and do a round of stills, which is basically photographing every shot that we've just done, every scene.
Wow. That's amazing. What about behind the scenes and direct to camera? Because your cast do quite a lot of that. How have you built that in?
It only takes a couple of seconds at the end of a scene to do it. We've built that in as a process when we're on set and we photograph every single scene. We have to consider what the thumbnail is for the episode and make sure we capture that. And then we also get behind the scenes photography and sometimes behind the scenes interviews on important scenes.
So you've got stills for every single scene and also video footage additional every day is part of your shoot.
We try to film a behind the scenes every day, yeah. But the photography is the number one must have. We've also built into our process, we do a wild run at the end of every scene so that it minimizes the chances of needing to do ADR and things like that.
Okay, so you just literally go back and just do a sound pass almost on a scene. Don't worry about the video. Just make sure you've got really clean sound. That's super clever.
Yeah, we just cluster the actors around and say, let's play it again, but into the mic this time. And yeah, it just helps you if you ever need it.
Yeah, well, this comes to one of the amazing things is actually the budgets that you work on. And I know most people who make television in a more traditional way will not believe it, but your shows look amazing. They sound amazing. They're getting incredible audiences. How many crew do you use?
I would say the vast majority of the show we've produced with a 3-person crew. It means we're wearing many hats. So my producing partner, Rick, is incredibly talented. He is the writer, he directs, he camera operates, he does his own lighting. He then edits the projects and does all the deliverables. He knows his way around post. I look after all the production. So I do, all the production management, accounting. On the day, I'm ADing, costumes, continuity, all of that sort of stuff, locations, anything like that. And then we have worked with sound recorders in the past, but I have actually recently undertaken a crash course in sound recording. And so now I do sound as well. Wow. So we're down to 2 people, which is pretty nimble.
But it looks amazing. It doesn't look cheap and cheerful at all. What you've done is incredible. But it's inspiring for people to know because, you have tried working with bigger crews and you actually found it less efficient.
Yeah, it was massively less efficient. It's when you get budgets and you get more people, it's you're suddenly solving different problems, and it felt like they were less filmmaking problems and more management problems. Sometimes it's just easier to do it yourself.
How do you look after your cast in an environment like that? There's no trucks with green rooms, right?
It's really important for us to just talk through and set those expectations coming in. I like to frame it to them. It's a bit like working in theatre where casts sort of do their own makeup and they're a bit more involved in that side of things. We shoot in areas where there's always access to toilets. When we're on location, it's catered, but that's usually just you get a delivery of some kind or organize something in advance. But it's just, I think the biggest thing is making sure that they understand what it's going to be like coming into it. It's like, this is a small production. We don't have all those luxuries. But, you know, if there's something that you need, like, you're just making sure that you've got like an open kind of like a good level of communication with them. I think when there's only two people as well on set, it's a lot more relaxed. Like, it's not like this big deal where you're just like, you've got lots of people standing around and there's lots of pressure on. Like, it is a lot more relaxed in terms of a working environment in that way.
And how do you deal with elements like safety?
I would do all the risk assessments and look at that. And we just write things in that have less risks. In the past, when we had some funding, we got to do fun things like we had a pool party where someone got pushed into a swimming pool, which was very fun. And because we had Big Screen and Screen Australia, we were able to bring in the safety supervisors and make sure that that was done in a safe way.
And locations, you limit locations, and you also shoot in areas with really friendly councils, so you're not going to be hit with massive fees.
Yeah, that's right. We're very lucky. Our local council, Yarra Ranges, has free low impact film permit, as well as Maroondah, where we've also done a lot of filming. City of Melbourne is brilliant. You don't even have to tell them anymore. You can just, as long as you adhere to the restrictions for low impact, they're happy for you to come and film. And then we have found other councils. We recently did one where we wanted to have some beach scenes, and we filmed down in Sandringham, and it was Bayside Council. They had a great low impact option that was economical for us. Port Phillip have been good as well.
When you're shooting low impact, it really is a whole different set of rules, isn't it? What's your development process like?
Well, it's changed as we've gone. When we've had funding and support, we've been able to bring in other writers to come in and work with Rick, doing storylining and then also doing some scripting as well. But when it's just us, he's doing the writing. He has such a strong story background. He worked in soaps in the UK before he came out to Neighbours. And so he's got a really strong story head on him. But recently we've begun doing more improvised projects. We had an interesting a dilemma on our most recent season where we had a cast and locations and everything booked for a week. We had everyone on weeklies. And then on day one of our actors called in sick, and we were like, oh, okay. Like, what do we do? So Rick was like, just wait. I know what we could do. And he went away and he plotted an entire feature film, and we kept everybody booked on their days, and we shot a improvised feature film ended up being 3 days that we did filming for that. And we used it as a chance to introduce the characters and build some chemistry before the actual season started. And it was great. But it was a problem that we turned into a solution. And the response from the audience was great. Like, they felt that performances were incredibly natural. You got to spend like more time with the characters, so the scenes were longer, and it was a little bit more intimate in that sense. We kind of felt like we'd stumbled onto something. So now our development process is we've just done 4 improvised feature films. We shot 3 of them in a month right before Christmas last year, so they're in post. 3 of them are locked and off in audio post, and 1 of them is still in the edit. But it's an incredibly different way to work, but it's been very exciting for us to find something like new and different. And you have to find actors that want to do that. So finding actors that really like that improv stuff, it just brings it alive. So Rick's writing very detailed scene breakdowns, so it's almost like a script before the dialogue comes in, and then we just go and film them.
Wow. And are you comfortable to tell us your budget on those feature films? An estimate of what they cost?
Well, they are a real fraction of what anybody else would be making a feature film for. I'll say this, they're below 10K.
Wow. They're below 10K. Everyone is paid union rates at least. And you have no investors. So return is straight back to the production company.
So the way we look at our slate is that if a project doesn't recoup within, about a month or so, it's hard for us to greenlight it. We've reached a point now where we can make a project and it recoups straight away. That allows us to go on and keep doing the next film and the next film. And I think a problem that a lot of, especially first-time filmmakers, probably come into, is that they take on budgets that are so big that it's hard to recoup, and you just lose that momentum. And if your finances rely on spending so much time recouping every budget, you'll never be able to get to the next one. And it's not that any particular one is going to be like making you a huge amount of money, but you've just got to keep moving through.
Part of your business plan is that you're playing a volume game, that if you shoot more things, then you're likely to amortize costs and recoup, and then you get one big hit and that'll help out the others. Is that your approach?
The way it's worked for us is that because we've been making the show for about 7 years now, and we've got, like you say, this big back catalogue that's out there, is that most of our revenue that comes in month to month is off the back catalogue. So it's not necessarily the new titles which are bringing in these huge paydays. It's more that every time you add a project to your catalogue, your whole catalogue goes up, and you have suddenly each month is like a little bit more. And then as, you know, titles, they'll go up and they'll peak and then they'll come back down. So you won't see necessarily huge growth across them consistently, but as you've got more, it just keeps adding to it and keeps you afloat.
And you're very good also at maximizing your IP. So you'll do a feature, but then you've also sometimes done director's cuts of features. So even from that one piece of film, you've created 2 versions that then can become part of that growing catalogue.
That's right. We put out different versions for the audience, and you can sort of, going back to the pay-per-view, if you offer them, this is like the extended edition, and then the free ones are available on other platforms. Also, what we've just done recently is we've found that the feature films perform better on different platforms. And so going back and doing recut versions of earlier seasons of the show and releasing them in different formats has allowed us to then, find new audiences and new revenue for it.
Wow. So again, using that IP, you've got something that was originally put together as a television series, but you recut it as a feature, but using the same source material. So clever. You've got this incredible piece of IP and world that you've created in Flunk. Where do you go from here?
Well, we are excited to just continue making the show and seeing, you know, how much we can build out the universe and make it as big as we can. We're also keen to launch a new IP in a different vertical and see if we can spin something up in that way. So that's another exciting project for us, which we're looking forward to.
You have told me a little bit off the record about that. And I just want to pull out that one of the things that you've done is you've found another subculture essentially that you can see is underserved. And so you're really listening to the audience. And again, like you've done with Flunk, you're going to create something to actually serve that really strong niche within the market.
I think what's really important for producers is to make sure that they are actually identifying a very specific audience. You need to know exactly what the audience is already watching so that you can make something that you know serves them. If it's sort of something that everyone will like, it's not going to perform because YouTube won't know who to give it to, and there is no piece of content that everybody watches except maybe Mr. Beast.
This is the era of the powerful niche, and finding those niches that do have substantial audiences but are not trying to be everything to everyone really does seem to be key to having success in this particular time.
Absolutely. But it's exciting trying something different. I learned how to do sound recording for Flunk. Now my mum's about to give me a crash course in her sewing machine. So moving into the costume department, which is fun.
You know, like 5 years ago when people come to me for career advice, I'd be like, you've got to specialize. You've really got to find one thing and be outstanding in it. And I think now we're in the era of the powerful slashy. Like having those incredible different skills is how you're going to survive in the digital economy. There's so many things I love about what you guys have done. It's so exciting to hear about it. And, you know, I think there's another universe in which you could have not done this and you'd still be knocking on doors waiting for someone to give you an opportunity. And instead you've created this whole universe, you've grown your skills, you've created a sustainable world, and you're about to launch your second piece of IP to do it all over again. It's so exciting. If you were talking to someone who's you 7 years ago thinking, oh, should I do this? You know, I've got this idea. What would your advice be?
My advice would be don't put too much stock in the first one. Just do it because you will learn so much. And then you'll be able to take that and put all that learning into the next piece. And I think there's, a lot of fear that like what you have to produce has to be perfect because you only get one directorial debut, you only get one first thing, but really that's not it. And you've just got to make it and go and create and keep doing it. Like it's the keep doing it. So many filmmakers will only make one film, and what's really going to make the difference is that you make the first one and then you go out and you make another one and just keep going.
And honestly, with a mobile phone and the internet, you can make it and you can get it out there. Like you can actually do that. Even Tig Torreira, who I worked with on Swift Street, he'd made on his mobile phone 8 short films before he got the opportunity to make Swift Street. Yeah, that kind of rigor of just getting out there, working your skills is so important. I always end my podcast with one big idea you've got that you would want to put out into the future of the screen industry that you think would make a difference. What's your big idea?
I look at the ways that funding bodies and things can help support independent filmmakers. And what I see is a trend towards lower budgets. And so I would ask funding bodies to look at Screen Australia specifically, like what can we do to get more support for the lower budget? And, could we lower the quote threshold? Right now, it sort of seems like it's only helping the rich, like the big productions, and you could help a lot more filmmakers and get a lot more production made if you lowered that. I think handing out smaller amounts of money would really help because it just inflates budgets and really doesn't set people up for success if you can only make something for X amount of money, but the ad revenue is down here, then having millions of dollars, it doesn't help anybody. It's like we need to teach people to make more with less, and how can we support that lower budget end is really what I think would be a big idea.
So great. And I often say, we're tradies. So also within that, you're getting people on the tools. You're getting people to actually work and get better at what they're doing so that when they do have those opportunities to have a bigger budget, they're really well practiced. They're not coming into them as their first go. And I think you're right. As audiences fragment, the point of return is going to get harder and harder and harder. So if we want to get to making real profit for people sooner, lowering our budget is certainly something to consider. Thank you so much for joining us. I love everything you're doing and look forward to talking again.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We Interrupt This broadcast is recorded on the unceded lands of the Bunurong people of the Kulin Nation and the Kaurna people of the Adelaide Plains, and we acknowledge them as the traditional custodians and first storytellers of these regions. Always was, always will be.
We Interrupt This broadcast is hosted by Julie Eckersley and Kirsty Stark. This episode is brought to you by Expanding Media and Crew HQ.